The shelter in the storm. The rain fell in silver sheets across the city, drumming against windows and flooding the gutters with rushing water. In a narrow alley between two brick buildings, Emma Hayes huddled beneath a torn piece of cardboard, watching the world blur behind the downpour. She had been homeless for 3 months now. 3 months since she lost her job at the bookstore. 3 months since she couldn't pay her rent. 3 months of shelters, soup kitchens, and cold nights that seemed to stretch on forever. Emma pulled her thin jacket tighter around her shoulders. The cardboard above her head was already soaking through, dripping cold water onto her auburn hair. She was 24 years old, and this was not how she had imagined her life would turn out. Through the curtain of rain, she heard something. A sound that made her heart tighten. A whimper, soft and desperate. Emma pushed herself up from her makeshift shelter and stepped into the downpour. The rain immediately soaked through her clothes, but she didn't care. That sound, that frightened cry, pulled her forward. At the end of the alley, near an overflowing dumpster, she found him. A Siberian husky puppy, no more than a few months old, shivering violently beneath a broken pallet. His gray and white fur was matted and soaked. His blue eyes looked up at her with a mixture of fear and hope. "Hey there, little one," Emma whispered, crouching down slowly. "It's okay, I won't hurt you." The puppy whimpered again, his small body trembling from cold or fear or both. Emma reached out carefully, letting him smell her hand. After a moment, he pressed his wet nose against her palm. "Come here," she said softly, gathering the puppy into her arms. He was surprisingly heavy, and she could feel his heart racing against her chest. "Let's get you somewhere dry." There was no somewhere dry for Emma. She had no home to take him to. But she did have the cardboard shelter, and she did have her jacket. That would have to be enough. Back in her spot, Emma wrapped the puppy in her jacket, holding him close to share what little warmth she had. He stopped shivering after a while, and his frightened eyes began to close. Emma sat there in the rain, her own body shaking from cold, but feeling strangely content. For the first time in months, she had someone to care for. Someone who needed her. "You're going to be okay," she whispered to the sleeping puppy. "I promise." The night was long and miserable. The rain didn't stop until dawn, and Emma didn't sleep at all. She kept the puppy warm and dry, even as her own teeth chattered and her fingers went numb. When the gray morning light finally crept into the alley, she felt exhausted but oddly peaceful. The puppy woke up and licked her face, his tail wagging weakly. Emma smiled despite her exhaustion. She would need to find food for both of them soon, and maybe take the puppy to a shelter where he could find a real home. A better home than she could ever give him. But before she could make any plans, she heard footsteps approaching the alley. Emma tensed, pulling the puppy closer. Sometimes people came into the alley, sometimes they were kind, sometimes they weren't. She had learned to be careful. A man appeared at the entrance to the alley. He was tall and handsome, probably in his early 30s, wearing an expensive gray suit that seemed completely out of place in this part of the city. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and even in the dim morning light, Emma could see the worry etched across his face. "Atlas," the man called out, his voice breaking slightly. "Atlas, are you here?" The puppy in Emma's arms suddenly perked up, his ears standing straight. He let out an excited bark and began squirming in her grip. The man's eyes locked onto them, and his expression transformed from worry to overwhelming relief. He rushed forward, his polished shoes splashing through puddles. "Atlas, oh, thank God," he breathed, dropping to his knees in front of Emma. Then his eyes met hers, and she saw something shift in his face. Not disgust or pity, but concern. "You found him. You saved him." Emma carefully handed the puppy, Atlas, over to his owner. The man cradled the dog against his chest, his eyes closing briefly in gratitude. "I've been searching all night," he said quietly. "He got out of the car yesterday afternoon. I thought I'd lost him forever." "He was scared," Emma said, her voice hoarse from the cold night. "But he's okay now." The man looked at her properly then, taking in her soaked clothes, her tired eyes, the cardboard shelter behind her. Understanding dawned across his features, followed by something that looked like shame. "You stayed with him all night," he said. It wasn't a question. "In the rain." Emma shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. He needed help. The man was quiet for a moment, stroking Atlas's fur. Then he stood up, still holding the puppy, and extended his free hand to Emma. "I'm James Mitchell," he said. "Please, let me help you. Let me do something to thank you." Emma hesitated. She had learned to be wary of offers that seemed too good to be true. But there was something genuine in James Mitchell's eyes. Something honest. She took his hand and let him help her to her feet. "I'm Emma Hayes." "Emma," James repeated, as if committing it to memory. "Come with me, please. At least let me get you breakfast and some dry clothes." Emma wanted to refuse. She had her pride, what little remained of it. But she was so cold and so tired, and the kindness in this stranger's eyes made something crack inside her chest. "Okay," she whispered. James led her to a sleek black SUV parked at the curb. He opened the door for her, and Emma climbed inside, feeling like she had stepped into another world. The seats were warm, the air was dry, and soft music played from hidden speakers. As James drove through the city streets, he talked. He told her about his company, a tech firm he had built from nothing. He told her about Atlas, who he had adopted just 2 weeks ago after his daughter, Lily, had begged for a puppy. He told her about his late wife, who had passed away a year ago, and how he was trying his best to be both father and mother to 4-year-old Lily. Emma listened, surprised by how openly this successful man shared his life with her. There was a loneliness in his voice that she recognized. It sounded like her own. They didn't go to a restaurant. Instead, James took her to his home, a beautiful modern house on the outskirts of the city. Emma felt completely out of place, but James seemed not to notice her care. A small girl with pink bows in her blonde hair squealed with delight when she saw Atlas, then threw her arms around Emma's legs. "You found him. You found our puppy," Lily exclaimed, her face shining with joy. Over breakfast, prepared by James himself, Emma learned that James had a proposition for her. He needed someone to help with Lily. A nanny, a companion, someone who could bring warmth back into his daughter's life. He offered her a position, a salary, and a small cottage on his property. "I know we just met," James said, watching Emma carefully. "But the way you cared for Atlas last night, in the middle of a storm, when you had nothing, that told me everything I need to know about who you are." Emma looked at this man, at his hopeful daughter, at the puppy curled contentedly at her feet. She thought about the cold alley, the cardboard shelter, the endless lonely nights. Sometimes, she realized, shelter came in the most unexpected forms. Sometimes, saving someone else meant saving yourself. "Yes," Emma said, smiling through the tears that suddenly filled her eyes. "I like that very much." Outside, the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in days, painting the world in gold.